Seriously, babies are like the best pickup line for dudes.
Yeah. Second best is puppies.
Oh yeah.
Cute little adorable puppies.
Oh, and if you have a baby and a puppy, oh my God, you're golden.
A baby puppy. Baby puppy, it takes over everything.
Hey everybody, sit down around the hearth, grab a frosty mug of ale. Welcome to the Lionspridetavern, where we discuss all things Azeroth. Hey everybody, welcome to the Lionspridetavern podcast number 51. Can you believe that? 51. Unbelievable. Tonight we dance with the Sisters of the Moon. And we find out how we did on this week's raid. Plus, we have the winner of our little internal guild contest. But before all that, let's start off with introductions. I'm your host, Fafford. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. Next up, we don't have JobUui. He's not here tonight. He has some real life stuff to do. So, we're going to introduce next, Lorelei.
Hi, it's Lorelei, your Night Elf Fury Warrior.
And a pistol up north where the smoke is no more.
But the weather is fine. Actually, nice and toasty today, but we know something's coming. Yeah, and given what day it is today, we tape on Sunday. Some big show was happening today. I forget what it's called. Some game of something or other. But anyway, it's lovely out here. And I'm Epistle, and I play a Draenei Protection Pally.
Oh, the game of Warcraft. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
It is important.
And Tapachino, you heard her.
Hey, it's Tapachino, your Night Elf Restoration Druid.
Well, hi guys. How's everything going this week?
Going pretty well.
It's going.
Sliding along.
So, unfortunately, I didn't get to raid Friday or Saturday. I had to go out of town. And I have got a ton of smoke in my state, so my voice is kind of going out tonight. So, I'm going to let someone else, since JobUi's not here, talk about this weekend's raid. Lorelei, how about you?
All right. Well, on Friday, we started with a new run. And we went very well through that. We cleared everything up through the Maiden of Vigilance without really any problems. So
it was pretty smooth, yeah.
Yeah, congratulations, all the members. They're really picking up on those mechanics.
And Tapachino got a tier glove.
She did. Oh my gosh, yes, she did. She won a
Titan
piece of gear.
forged with a socket.
Now, does that give you a set bonus yet?
Two pieces, my head and my gloves now. And then the rest is the LFR stuff. So yay!
All right. See,
I
your
think
luck's
we
picking up.
Did we one-shot everything up through Maiden of Vigilance? I seem to remember that we did, but
I think she
it
was the only
pretty
one.
smooth.
Yeah, she was the only one we had to take a couple pulls on.
I think we lost a few people on a few bits of trash, but that's about it.
yeah.
But no wiping on trash.
No, indeed.
No, that trash going up to Desolate Host was not that bad.
Very cool. So, but you had some downfall on Maiden on Friday?
We did. The first pull, everybody got a little excited, and they kind of rushed the boss and threw her out of alignment, and then everybody had bombs and was jumping in the hole. And once they realized, oh, yeah, we did it again, they just held back for a few seconds, and I think we either got her down on the second or third. I don't think we had to do 3. I think we got it down on the second.
I don't have any painful memories, so I think it must have been 2.
We did have some, like a lot of bombs go off. We had one person on the wrong side, but we recovered it. Everybody jumped in like they should have, and we actually recovered that mistake and were able to get her down after that instead of, everyone wiping. So that went pretty good.
That was
a great recovery.
It was.
At the same time, actually, I got thrown clear across the room. I went in to the middle when I had a bomb on me, and then got blown to the other side, and I have no idea why. That was frustrating. And then it happened to Dark too, but we used our speed boosts and again recovered like everyone else did, and I think that made it much smoother.
Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't even miss you.
Yeah, so good job to the tanks and the healers, because I know having to heal through that one messy spot was probably really hard.
So
Yeah, it was a little hairy, but did it.
So yeah, that it sounds like we're really getting the mechanics down then. If you guys made a couple of mistakes, big ones, especially when one side goes all in. I mean, that's huge.
Well, everybody, it was great because everybody had the bomb, and everyone jumped in that was supposed to. It was really impressive.
Yeah, none of this headless chickens thing that happened.
Yep.
No, when somebody realized they were on the wrong side, they figured out how to get around without running through everybody, and it was great. So congratulations to everybody on that.
Yeah, because
Yep, definitely.
Mommy and I were both gone. So did you have a full raid on Friday?
I don't. Did we? I was thinking we were missing a couple of people.
I think
Maybe
we
one or
had
two
27. Yeah, I think we had 27 at maybe 28. We might have ended up with 28.
Yeah, I think someone came in later on, so it was pretty close to full. Not bad for late summer.
But Saturday we were full.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if we were going to have, just somebody drop out or just not take somebody in, because we were filling up very quick.
Yeah, and I heard our two new members of the guild actually played on Friday and did very well.
Yep, they did.
Sure did.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, they did a good job. Yep.
Got a couple of attempts in on Fallen Avatar on Friday, but we were having a problem with her exploding. So I wasn't sure why. So I went and I started looking some things up. And does she explode like that when we don't get her shield down in time?
Yes.
Okay. If for some reason that was what was happening.
Yeah, because she'll explode if we don't get her shield down, or the avatar will heal if we don't get the maiden down. Or how does that go?
He eats her and gains her health or something like that.
Yeah, because we've done
Both
that a couple
undesirable. Yeah, both undesirable eventualities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Friday we got all the way to Fallen Avatar, got a couple of pulls on that, and then Saturday, how'd we do?
Well, we got. I don't remember how many pulls we had to do on Fallen Avatar. It was maybe 3 at least, I think. And we finally got him down. There was a lot of sacrificing going on, but we were down to a little tiny bit of the bottom island, and we did. Thank you for the people who had the dark mark or whatever it's called, and they were jumping in lava and just getting blown all over because they were just sacrificing themselves so that we could finish DPSing. We had lost maybe at least a good third of the raid, if not half by that time. I think it was more like half.
Yeah.
And it was hit and miss there for a few minutes if we were going to get him down, but we did. It was messy, but it died, but very messy.
Now, the attempt just before that, though, is worth noting because we got the boss down in a similar situation to, what was it, 0.4%?
Yeah, and that was good because he was somewhere around almost 50%, if not maybe 52, 53 when he went down. And I was like sitting there going, oh no, this is not going to happen.
Yeah, got too much health for the maiden. Yeah.
So you kind of had a kamikaze battle going on there.
Yeah, it was just everybody just hit it. Throw the kitchen sink at it. Throw your bow at it. I don't care. Throw it. Kick it. You throw a rock. I don't care.
A little messy then?
It's very messy. But it got down. So that was all that mattered.
You know what they say when you're flying a plane? Any landing you can walk away from.
Yeah.
Is a good landing. So we got it down, and how much time did we have going after Kill Jaden?
That was really our halfway point, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about an hour.
Yep, because as soon as we cleared the trash on the plane, we took our break.
Okay. Yeah, that'd probably be a good time to do it after everybody's shaking off all the willies. We got it down, but that was messy.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. And then kill Jaden. How'd we do there?
We're progressing.
Yeah, I think was our final percent. I think it was like 43%.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Yeah, we were doing.
I think that was our best time.
43 or 45 or.
Yeah, and I'd say at that last
it was
attempt, or maybe the 2 attempts that I saw, it looked to me like we were getting the mechanics. People were knowing what to do and how to do it, but we had a couple of those sort of bad luck moments when things did not go well, and just some bad RNG, and so one thing led to another, and it kind of collapsed, like some of our other fights did a while back.
Yeah, but everybody's doing a really good job about picking up the individual attacks, like the focus dread flame, the big red line. People have that down. They're really good with that. What is it? The singularity. People were really good about getting out of that. I don't think anybody got blown off the platform this time.
No, I had my I had my wand ready to change anybody, and that didn't happen. And I think I should say, hi, there's Jobui.
I play a Worgen Crossmage.
There you go.
Hey, there he is.
Well, we were just welcome, Jobui. We were just talking about how the raid went, so we can get some input from you. We were talking about Saturday's kill Jaden attempts.
Yeah, they went pretty well, really. I think people are starting to get it. I mean, there's it's going to take more practice. I think as the players get like more used to the dance moves, then when they start doubling up, then I think that they'll get handled a little smoother. But in general, I thought it went pretty well. I think, what was it, like 40-something percent, 44%?
Yeah.
So it was pretty close to pushing to the second intermission. It's just right at the tail end of that, it gets really hairy. There's a lot of mechanics to deal with all at once right at the tail end of that phase. And, and that kind of overwhelmed folks at that point. But, yeah, I think folks are really starting to get it.
So let me ask you, do you guys think that it was, it's just, this is the furthest we've gone, so we just haven't seen it past that, so that's pretty much where we went to? Because last week we were at 55%, and we weren't quite getting through that one, because I know in that phase at about 50%, everything's being thrown. You got the Armageddons that are going off. You got all the circles going around you, and you got to spread out for that. I mean, everything starts to happen, and there's no real logic to it as far as an order. I mean, there's an order, but it doesn't seem to come at the right time. Do you guys think that it's possible that it's just we made it through that, and then we're like, okay, now what do we do?
I don't think so. I think the we made it through that, now what do we do thing will be when we get to the second intermission and the whole screen goes dark and everybody panics. It's like they're like, oh, what do I do now? It's dark. But I think that I think what it is they're getting used to the individual mechanics, but they double up and they're starting to get used to the doubling up of the mechanics. But at the tail end of that, it triples up on the mechanics, and I think that's what's like pretty much like knocking everybody for a loop at that point. It's because there's that sense of, oh, what do I do? Because there's so much going on that it's just not, things start to not get done, and then once things start to not get done, it all falls apart in that fight.
Yeah, people get overloaded. There's so many things going on, and you don't know what to prioritize, what's most important. Now, I've got to say, because I've said it in Raid 2, from a tanking perspective, it's so basic. It's like I'm gloating a little bit because it's really actually fairly easy. Active mitigation, you have to be on top of your game as a tank, but otherwise it's like, tank swap, avoid stuff. That's it. We had to work hard to get to that point though as tanks, so it's kind of a, hey, now let's make everybody else do all these dance steps and run around and get into stuff. And actually it's It's surprisingly gratifying as a fight for tanks.
Yeah.
Now
I
you
think
know what
it's-
we have to go through.
I think if people understand that this fight has a lot of situational awareness that you have to deal with. You have to know when to spread out so that you can see when the Armageddons are coming out and where they are, and that way you can move to them quickly. That just comes with practice. It's like the maiden fight where you have to know, well, if I'm on the wrong side, how do I get around that, and how do I not take everybody down with me? And we've gotten that one down, so it'll come.
Mm-hmm.
I think another thing that could help is like DBM puts up timers to like let you know what's coming next. And I know it's difficult with so much going on for people to glance up at their timers, but if they can get in that habit, that would really help people mentally prepare for the next mechanic. Because if they look up and they see, oh, that's coming, then they can go, then I need to do this, and it makes it's less reactionary and more preparedness. And I think that'll help with the fight as it goes down the road.
Yeah, I mean, for healing, I mean, I can't stress enough how much stuff is on the screen and how much healers have to, watching so many things at once, that having people call out the stuff is still really useful for us. It's kind of hard to look at one more thing on the screen, too, if you know what I mean.
Well, and I expect the tanks are part of one of those things on the screen, because we can take a pounding on that fight and our health can go down really quick. And so you might need to use more than really any other boss, I think, in this whole raid. We can take a whole bunch of damage really quick.
Oh yeah. Like who was it? I was saying earlier when we were offline that our tank Durag was had the most.
It's the number one heal.
Number one healer.
Yep.
I was trying to word that. He was the number one healer for that fight, and we were still having to heal him quite a bit. So, tanks really take a beating for sure.
Yeah, I've got to mitigate everything as much as I possibly can. But that puts pressure then on the healers. You've got to both walk into stuff and walk out of stuff and run around and avoid things and make sure the tanks aren't dying. We're just standing in one spot being bored.
It is quite a lot to go through. But that's why we love it.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you, so when you got to that point, the 43, 44%, whatever it was that you got to, were there a lot of people down, or was it just overwhelming mechanics?
It was overwhelming mechanics. The majority of the raid was still up at that point. Okay. And then a couple of Armageddons got missed, and that was it. Because that's all it takes.
I think we're pretty steady, pretty consistent. We're doing really, really well. But then we got overwhelmed by mechanics. So a number of things went wrong, as Jabui was saying, followed up with, I think I didn't do my mitigation perfectly, so I went down. My cooldowns had been burned out, so that was it for a tank. And as damage was going all around the raid, it was just one of those things where they all RNG'd together, and that was it for us. So
pretty much the randomness of it is what possibly ticking you down.
I'm not so. I don't. Lorelei, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in that, but I don't think the mechanics on that fight are random. I think they are set and come at a pretty regular pace.
I
every
think
time
they
you do it.
because each phase or each stage, you're going to get the mechanics from the stage before. So that at the final stage, and until you get past the darkness, and then you get a whole new set of mechanics. So right before that second intermission, we've got Armageddons, we've got bursting dread flame and reflections going off at the same time.
Right, but they're all on like a. What I'm saying is, I think they're all on like a specific timer. As in, like, if you do the fight, and I'm not saying that this actually happens at 4 minutes into the fight, but at 4 minutes into the fight, every time you do the fight, you get this mechanic, and at such and such time, you get this next mechanic. With bearing in mind the intermission time, that could throw off when the mechanics start in the next phase. But I think they come in the same order every time, like the mechanics that we get.
Well, they might. So it's going to depend on how fast we get down reflections, so that we don't have reflections and Armageddons going off at the same time. That could be one of the things that we weren't doing right, was just letting things go on too long.
Well, that's what I was talking about. So if you get it down quick enough, then it doesn't happen as often. So you're not getting those double overlay mechanics happening. Where if you don't, then you've got, Armageddon going off at the same time you got your circles.
Well, I think those will go off at the same time. Those two definitely will.
They do. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and the RNG, I think that collapse that we ended up collapsing into was really kind of raid created RNG. So it's not that the game was doing it unfairly; it's that somebody dropped the ball on this one or that one got missed, which then created this cluster thing.
Yeah, and one time it was a singularity that was over in a corner, and people were trying to run to do Armageddons, and they had the dread flames, and they were coming back from that, and then the singularity went off and blew a third of the people off the platform at that point.
Yeah, and it's like we were saying, it's part of like a cascade failure. If one thing goes wrong, then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh no, what next? What do I do now? And there's like that hesitation, and then the moment there's hesitation in that fight, that spells disaster.
All was lost.
Oh, it's kind of like staring into the eyes of a grizzly bear.
Been there, done that.
Once you go, I'm dead. Yeah, you pretty much are.
I haven't told you my grizzly bear story, have I? Huh.
No, I haven't heard your grizzly bear story. Why don't you tell us?
There's the long and a short version. The short version is I was with a bunch of friends out in the backcountry, and we ran into a mother and her cub. She charged us and knocked over one of my friends, and I tried to fend it off with binoculars, but at that point, everyone else had sort of regathered to try with sticks and stones to drive it off if necessary. She wasn't scared. She made her point. She left.
Wow.
Yeah, seriously.
That's the short version, but yeah.
I've encountered a bear too, but it was far less dramatic. I was just walking along a road, and a bear burst out of the woods about 10 feet away from me, ran across the road and up the side of the mountain. Now, I wasn't really scared because the bear never really looked at me until I saw the bear go up this side of the mountain, because it was running across the road at about 20 miles an hour, maybe 15 to 20 miles an hour. When it hit the side of the mountain, now this mountain was about a 45% grade. I mean, it was very steep, and it didn't slow down at all going up the side of that mountain. And I was like, wow.
They're more dangerous actually going uphill than down. So if you ever have to run away from one, run downhill.
Yeah.
And turn.
Not like in the horror flicks where you go upstairs.
Yeah, don't climb trees. Yeah.
I think I was mostly just in awe of the muscles just rippling underneath its fur.
They are strong, yeah.
It was intense, but it never even glanced at me, so I didn't have to fend it off with binoculars or anything.
Well, you must keep those binoculars on hand next time.
I've still got them around, but really, she didn't care. What I did was inconsequential. It didn't matter to her at all.
Yeah, there's not too many things I think frighten a bear. All right, guys. Well, that sounds like a good raid weekend. I mean, I don't think. I did miss, because I know Saturday we were completely full, and with Mommy and I both being gone, that would have put 2 people out. But I know our 2 newest members actually joined for Saturday night, and from what I understand, nobody really saw them doing anything they shouldn't be doing, so they're doing pretty well. So there was a couple of good players. That's awesome. So I think tonight we're going to do Dancing with the Bosses again. And tonight's Dancing with the Boss is Sisters of the Moon. Now this is something we put together a little while back, where we talk individually about one specific boss. We talk about ranged DPS, what they do, melee DPS, what they do or don't do, tanks and heals on what they do for that fight. So you fans can listen along, and if you're a ranged DPS, listen to JoeBui and what he does, and if you're melee, listen to Lorelei. Tank, pistol, and heals, always Tapachino. So
Tapachino.
Yeah. So JoeBui, why don't you talk about Sisters of the Moon? on range DPS.
All right. Well, the Sisters of the Moon fight for as a range doesn't feel. It used to feel complicated, but it doesn't feel so complicated to me anymore. I usually try and start off somewhere around the middle of the room, and what I mean by middle is the floor will gradually change from light to dark as it goes through the phases of the moon until it reaches an eclipse. And as you're standing in one of the sides, whether it's light or dark, you gradually get a debuff on you that stacks up. At about 12, it's a good idea to drop that debuff by switching to the other side. Now you can switch to the other color, like let's say you're standing on light, you switch to dark, and then you could switch right back to light if you want. And sometimes I do that because what I'll do is I'll start right about in the middle, and then the floor will change, and it'll just change right under my feet and clear the stacks for me. And I just stay right there at the opener, hitting the boss as much as I can, and I let it go until it's like a crescent moon over on the other side of the room. And then I just quick head over to that side and clear my stacks real quick right before it goes to an eclipse. And at that point, we're going to run into a thing where there's a big ad that comes out. I think it's called the Moon Talon. And then there's the main boss that's up is going to get a shield around herself. And she's also going to put an absorb debuff on every player that's going to absorb healing. And if we don't kill that shield, then that makes a big damage thing. And then if our shields on us don't get healed up, then we release a burst of damage. But as long as you're away from people by 8 yards, then you're safe. So I position myself 8 yards away from any other player. And then, I just DPS the boss as hard as I can when that shield comes up, just to make sure that that it goes down, and everybody else does as well. And then I switch to back to the Moon Talon and attack the Moon Talon until it goes down, then switch back to the boss. And I keep doing that dance with the floor, clearing my stacks and switching different sides. And there's a debuff that gets on folks, but I can't think of what it's called. It's the moon thing, I think is what it's called.
Lunar Beacon?
Yeah, I think it's the Lunar Beacon, and DBM pops up and warns me about it, and it says that I have this particular debuff on me, and I need to run to the other side and clear the stacks right away. I need to cross the line of the moon to clear that off myself before
that's the moon.
It's a fusion. Yeah, Umbra or Lunar
right.
Fusion. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that makes me take more damage, so I just quickly try and clear that off when that gets on me. And I just really try and stay focused on the boss. The other things that I have to do is when I believe it's the Huntress comes out, because they switch positions. They like tag team us, they like tag out and the next one comes in. And they do a thing, I think it's called, is it Twilight Volley? It's basically, it puts a debuff on you, and after a few seconds, there's going to be a circle that drops around you where there's arrows dropping on the ground right in that spot, and anybody who's standing in it will get silenced. So if I get that on me, I try and get to the wall and make sure it drops as close to the wall so it takes up the least amount of space on the play field as possible. And the only other thing that I really need to focus on is if I get tagged by the third boss, which is going to try and hit me with a glaive toss, and so I try and make sure that glaive toss is not going towards other people, and does the least amount of damage as possible to folks, and that's more or less it. I think there's another one too, another shot that goes out that you have to stack across the melee. It's like a beam. If I recall.
Shot.
Yes, that one. And if I get that on me, which I believe shows up as a red beam, I think, and then I will make sure that I have that crossing the tanks and the melee and any other players that I can get in that line, and I try and move over them. And then once I see people gathering underneath the line, I stop moving so that they don't have to keep moving with me. But I just try and get enough people to help me absorb that damage. And other than that, it's just keep DPSing, keep dropping my stacks, and keep trying to kill those ads and drop those shields off the boss as they come up while staying 8 yards apart.
Yeah, no, the shield only comes up when the Moon Talon comes out, correct?
I think it comes.
No,
it comes up every time every time it hits a full moon or a full eclipse. I think is when the shield comes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly how that triggered, because I know the Moon Talon is one that you want to get down as quickly as possible, unless the shield's up, because then you want to get that shield down before you take the Moon Talon down, because the shield's more deadly.
Absolutely, yeah. The shield is #1 priority every time it pops up. Everybody needs to get on that shield and destroy it, because it's pretty gnarly damage that goes out if you don't. But you know, we used to have a little trouble with that, but we've gotten it down. Everybody's gotten used to that now in our group, so that usually goes down pretty cleanly as everybody turns and attacks it, and then we get back on the Moon Talon.
Yeah, because I know with the Moon Talon, if it gets below 25%, it begins to do a screech of some sort, and that does raid-wide damage. I think like 400,000 shadow damage to everybody around it. So I do know that when it gets down that low, you got to just finish it off.
Yeah, and it increases by 25% every time it does that attack too.
Yeah.
So it's like 400, then 600, then it would get out of control fast.
Yep. So yeah, it sounds like you covered everything. So Lorelei, from a melee.
From a melee point of view, we have to do a lot of running around in this fight, because we have to watch our stacks and make sure that we're clearing them. I try to clear mine around 7, just so that I don't get caught with getting them too high when the moon eclipses. We have to watch out for the glaives, and when they split twice, they have a tendency to come through melee a lot, so you got to be ready to move out. And occasionally, not too often, we might get the lunar beacon, which is the circle that silences you, and you need to make sure you get that out of the way, and then the volley where the arrows rain down. So you have to make sure that you get all of that off to the side. I think there's one called rapid shot, which you need to go to the other side. So if you're on the light side and you get rapid shot, you need to move out and then take that over to the dark side.
Is that a melee only thing?
No, I think anybody can get that. I don't see as a melee. I don't get lunar beacon very often, but I have gotten it. Sometimes I think that's the one where the arrows are coming down at, but they're just two. Both of them are circles on the ground, but one has arrows and one just does a silence. I don't get those too often. I think that's mostly a range thing.
Yeah, I know I get it, both of them quite a bit, but I'm usually outside the circle.
I think the worst thing for us is the glaives, because we're so close to right in the center of the room that it's a real dance sometimes to move away from them, especially when they split into 3.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten the rapid shot, which is why I was wondering if that was like a melee only thing. It's just, I mean, we've done that fight a whole bunch of times, but I guess, I mean, when there's 30 people, the RNG means somebody's not going to get it sometime.
Well,
yeah.
And I don't think it's called rapid shot. I think she's talking about the incorporeal shot. Is that the one you're talking about? Where it
I think
splits?
I was looking at, because it was like there's so many different.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's called shadow shot instead of rapid shot. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah.
There is an incorporeal shot, and it is doing shadow damage.
Oh no, there's a rapid shot. The captain does it. Oh, so there's just all kinds of shots going out. Apparently, I guess I don't pay much attention unless my DBM tells me to get it out of the way, because I'm like, oh, okay, there's like 3 or 4 different kind of shots going on here.
Yeah, that's.
But I think that's probably just the normal damage going out. That's just whatever they're doing while we're fighting one of the bosses.
Yeah, so follow the instructions that DBM tells you is the left
Yeah,
here.
anything that I
All hail
have to
DBM.
run away with is I've got that what is that, S4, whatever it is on there, so I know get away.
Get away, run away, little girl.
If I don't have to get away from it, I don't worry about it too much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you listeners, if it's first time you're raiding, DBM is a must. You've got to have it and keep it up to date.
Absolutely.
Keep it up to date. Yes. So taking epistle.
Most of what's been said is covered, a good chunk of it. Although, from my perspective, it's really about watching. Well, there's stacks from the boss, the tank swap for that, of course, and the stacking debuff that you get from whichever phase of the moon it is. So when you're off tanking, you run out to clear the stack and come back. So it's fairly straightforward. A couple little curveballs is there's something she does called Moonglaive. We want to have it hit 3 players to decrease tank damage, although lately hasn't really been much of an issue, so we haven't really had to do that. And also, if we get a moon burn, that's another debuff that gets hit. We have to go and clear that one as well. But I think at this point, we could probably survive it even if we got it. It wouldn't be too big a deal. So yeah, we have to pick up the Moon Talon when it shows up too, but that's all pretty standard issue stuff. So it's an enjoyable fight, I find. Just have to be swinging to one side of the moon or the other.
Very cool. Tapachino from a healing, is it just hot, ...
Well, not exactly. You know, again, with the mechanics, like with DPS and tanks, we have to watch out for all the burns and the, you know, being on the right side and such. I guess the biggest difference with this fight for healing is the shield. Before we start, you know, we kind of need to know what the makeup of the raid is. We found that if we have a lot of melee, well, let me just start, like the shield, we have to use our cooldowns for it because it could do a lot of damage. So if we have found that if we have a lot of melee, then we need 2 healers to use their cooldowns at the same time. But if we have a lot of ranged, we can do it with 1. So before we start the fight, you know, we kind of get an idea who's who, and we choose our order of cooldowns. So, you know, maybe I go first, or another druid may go with me. Here, let me start that again. So before our fight, we determine who goes first, whether we need 1 or 2 healers to do the cooldown at those times, and then we get the signal that the shield is up and we have our cooldown, or we use our cooldowns then. And I'm talking the big ones, like for me it would be Tranquility. Another thing I have in my tier 6 on my talents is I spec'd into a Tranquility is their cooldowns reduced by 60 seconds. So every 2 minutes we can have a Tranquility. And with 2 druids or 3 druids at times, you know, that's a lot. So I think that's about everything else is just, you know, heal, ... like you said. Stay out of stuff, drop the stacks that come on us, and be prepared to do our major cooldowns on the shield.
Now, do you have a heal cooldown rotation on this fight?
Yes. So we'll do, you know, we'll just say, okay, Tap, Faye, Zeets, or Emir, or whatever. We'll just say, okay, the first shield, maybe I'll do it. The second shield, somebody else will do it. Third shield, they'll use their cooldown. If somebody dies, you know, having that 2-minute cooldown instead of 3 can be very useful, so we can step in if we need to. Again, if it's melee, then we need some stronger heals, because it seems the melee get a lot of damage. If there's a lot of melee, we have a lot more damage there, and sometimes it takes 2 of us to use our cooldowns at the same time.
Right. Okay. Very cool. So yeah, I know that's one of the strategies you can use is to stay spread out and then just blast the shield down. The other one I think we tried numerous times and just could not get down is where we just had the healers heal through it, and that wasn't happening with our heal team makeup.
Yeah, and it does help having it spread out, and I think we're more likely to be able to do it with just 1 healer, 1 cooldown.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like we do too bad with sisters anymore, where we used to. You know, we used to have trouble with her.
It does help that we know the fight better, and we're getting better gear, and, you know, we know what to do and when to do it.
Yeah, Sisters is one of those fights where, you know, when you first encounter it, There's so many mechanics, and there really are a ton of mechanics in that fight, and it seems very, very daunting initially, but after that, it feels like like at this point, it doesn't feel as daunting anymore. Like we get to Sisters, and I'm like, oh, we're at Sisters. Okay, we'll just do our thing at Sisters, and it's everybody seems to have the dance steps down for that. So like at first it's daunting, but it does get easier.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we first started doing it, just running, across the room all the time, going, "Oh my God, how am I going to get a heal in?" I'm always trying to find that line where I've got to, drop these stacks. So it is much better.
Now it's easy peasy.
Yep.
Pretty much.
One tip I do have for players that if you do end up with too many stacks, because it can easily happen if you don't get them cleared in time, is when as you come into the room, I'm not sure which direction that is as far as north, south, or whatever, but from the entrance of the room, facing the boss, the cycle of the moon always goes from the right-hand side of the room to the left-hand side of the room. So if you happen to get too many stacks on you, or you don't get them cleared, a good idea is to move to the right-hand side of the door as you are coming in the entrance. Get on that side where the phase of the moon is about to come up, whether it's the dark or the light phase, and kind of stand along the wall. That way, as soon as the phase starts to change again after the eclipse, you'll get hit by that phase change and it'll clear your stacks right away.
Yeah, and
that makes sense.
Yeah, and if you have to, make sure you use personal cooldowns, because you can handle it all the way up to about 12 stacks, but when you start hitting 16, boy, it's really starting to knock your health down. And anything after that, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I think I hit 20 once by mistake, and I noticed I was getting a number of heals poured on me at that point.
Yeah, it's always a good idea to call it out. So if you start to see it go into a full phase, and we hear this constantly, we hear go clear your stacks, and it's just a reminder, So don't hesitate to call that out in your raid group. Right when that full moon or the full dark moon is coming out, where the full phase is, right before it, call it out, so people kind of gives them a reminder. So
it actually was very helpful when we did that on Friday night, because everybody was clearing at the same time, so it made it easier on the healers too. So that was actually kind of nice to do it that way.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the brainchild of JobUi. He came up with a very interesting idea that we did. During the week, we had the special dance party at in WoW. It was a transmog party. So he came up with the ugly transmog contest. And so we just did a little internal guild transmog contest. We decided to all dress up in their worst transmog outfit and take screenshots of ourselves, post it on our Facebook page, our guild Facebook page, and we all voted. Well, we ended up with a tie. So last week we asked our fans, go to the Lionspridetavern podcast webpage on Facebook and go to the event and help break the tiebreaker. So we let it run for the whole week, and I completely forgot about it. I was going to do it Friday, but I was out of town Friday and Saturday. So as we're driving back Saturday, I had my wife grab my iPad and say, "Oh, log on to Facebook and see how many likes each one of them has." Because I was like, man, if it's close and I missed it, the deadline, I'm going to be in trouble. Well, it really wasn't that close. So
nope.
It was between Formir and JobUi. And Formir did win with 9 votes, and JobUi had 3.
Yeah,
now,
I didn't get very many votes.
I really think the reason is because of For's pictures. So if you haven't seen them, please go look, because he hit the pictures just right. He looks like a really weirdo Michael Jackson. He's got his hand on his crotch, and then he's up on his toes like a ballerina. But
a thing to behold.
Yes.
Whereas mine was more of a a leap in the air with way too many wings kind of roar thing. It almost looked kind of cool, actually.
Yeah.
In that picture.
See, and I think when they looked at it and they went, no, that's actually pretty cool, the other guy looks uglier. So we'll just
We're
vote
going
for
for
him.
tacky here.
Yeah.
Embrace the tacky.
Yeah. So, yes, congratulations to Formir. He is the winner of the Ugly Transmog.
Cheers.
Congratulations, for.
And it
Yep.
really was an ugly
Yeah.
transmog. He deserved it.
I
Yeah,
want to know where you got your hat, Tap. That was I've never seen that hat.
Ah, where did I get that? I can't remember. I'm not on my tune right now. I'll have to check that out. I forget where I got it.
Yeah, check that for me.
I thought that was a pretty ugly outfit, but in a cute kind of way. So
see, that's the problem with doing an ugly transmog contest. You know, you start doing it and you're going, oh, but that kind of matches. I should do that. And then pretty soon it's all cutesy, you know?
But I was thinking, because granted, this is a long ways off still. The Trial of Style is the same time every year. It's the end of starts the end of the second week of August. It's just for a few days. But the thing I thought was like cool about doing it at that time was transmogs are free during the Trial of Style, so it didn't cost anybody anything to put on an ugly transmog and switch back or anything like that. It doesn't cost gold. So I was thinking we should like make that a yearly event where, we've got till August 2018 to prepare our next ugly outfits.
I agree.
sure, that sounds
Yeah.
like a great idea.
So we'll have to throw that on a calendar a week before to remind us. So maybe one of you guys want to do that. That way next year it kind of hits us and goes, oh, hey, our ugly transmog contest. Because next year I think I think next year everybody will get into it.
It's actually on the calendar for August 17th of next year, the Trial of Style.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yep.
talking about our ugly
So-
transmog though.
Where would you like that?
Oh, put it like the week before, and
All right.
yeah, that way we have a week prep time to get it out to everybody so they can all. Because that was kind of JoBui kind of brought it up right before the raid, so
Yeah.
everybody really didn't have a lot of time to go through every piece of their gear and make something really ugly.
Yeah, I posted it to the guild Facebook page like the day before, and because that's when I thought of it I was like, oh, do ugly transmog, and then so I posted it right away, and then like there was a number of people who had seen it and they showed up with their ugly transmogs, and then other people who heard about it as they were arriving for raid time, and arriving early for raid time, and then they were running back out of the raid to go put on ugly transmogs.
Right.
Okay, it's on
But
there.
it was a lot of fun though.
Yes. But if we have it the week before, we can announce it the week before's raid. Next week when you show up, make sure you do your ugly transmog.
Yeah, because we raid Friday, Saturdays, so the first day of Trial of Style is on Friday.
Yep.
It starts on that Friday, so we could do it on that Friday and Saturday.
Yep, I put it on for August 10th, our second annual Ugly Transmog event.
Nice.
I'm gonna have to go transmog hunting, like just really dig through and find like the worst outfit I can possibly create.
Well, and I'm looking on the week of the 19th and the 20th of September, so coming up in a few weeks. It's Pirates Day on the 19th and 20th.
Yes.
I think on our 22nd, 23rd, we should have a pirate raid day.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Becomes dressed
That'd be a
as
good
pirates.
idea.
That
Oh,
would
yeah,
be fun.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have pirate stuff, but I might.
You got the days to pick them up.
Oh,
But I like I like the lightheartedness of that kind of an addition to the raid.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do some Halloween and Christmas. And
Oh, there's gonna be Halloween because I got turned into a flower thing by somebody who held on to his for a whole year. Don't know who that was.
that was really weird too.
I usually keep my head transmogged as a pumpkin throughout most of the Hallows End.
I always wear my red Christmas hat all the time
For
through all of
Halloween?
Christmas.
Oh.
No,
I was gonna say-
for Christmas. I'm going ahead a little bit of time here.
All right, guys, I think it's time to cue the music. It's time for Lorelei's Pet Battle Minute.
Hi. Today I'd like to address a question I've been asked by players who are new to pet battling or trying to get more into it but don't know what pets they should have. While there are over 1,000 pets out there, I'd like to share a list of the top 10 pets that battlers consider most useful in most circumstances. These pets are also fairly easy to get. Check your auction house or your professions. I'll start with 5 and finish up next week. Number 1 is the Anubis Sith Idol. He drops from Emperor Veclor in the Temple of, I hate saying this one, Ankh-Morpork. He's a good tank pet, and his Sandstorm eliminates most periodic damage effects, and his deflection counters any powerful hits. Number 2 is the Pandaren Water Spirit. You can get this pet when you defeat the Pandaren Water Spirit Tamer in Pandaria, and he's extremely powerful when you pair him up with number 3, Chrominius. He drops from Cro-Magnus and Blackwing Lair. This pair makes a combo referred to as the Spirit Bomb. You start out with your Water Spirit, use Geyser and then Whirlpool, sub in with Chrominius and do a Howl and a Surge of Power, and watch your enemy become toast. It's been nerfed recently, but it still packs a good punch. Number 4 is your Emerald Proto-Whelp. You can capture this in Sholazar Basin in Northrend. If you can find one that's got Power, your add-on will help you figure this out. It has a strong damage shield and it's great against flying opponents. Number 5 is the Dark Moon Tonk. You can purchase this pet from the Dark Moon Fair for 90 tickets. It's strong against beast pets, and its Shock and Awe and Ion Cannon combo can't be beat. I'll complete the next list next week, and I hope this helps you looking for pets to add to your teams. And that's it for my Pet Battle Minute today.
Awesome. That's awesome. You know, I really think that they come up with those weird names so nobody can pronounce them. Somebody in Blizzard.
I practiced on it, and then I tried to go too fast, and I started blah, 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 blah.
Somebody in Blizzard sitting around going, let's come up with a name that nobody can say, or they're going to say it 15 different ways.
And I can never pronounce that stupid raid name.
God, I hate that.
You know, that's just like reading fantasy books. All the, you know, dwarven and elven cities. You can't even, you know, they just mash the keyboard. Nope, there's the name of that city.
Yeah. You know, I mean, let's come up with the name of a guy. Let's go kill that big guy, Bob.
Yep,
Bob is a great name. Yeah. I approve of Bob as a name.
Boss Bob.
Because you can look down at it when it's printed on your shirt and it says Bob either direction.
Yeah.
All right, next up we have
Getting Deeps with JobUI.
This week is a little more off the cuff than my usual DPS minute. So I'm just going to remind folks that, especially around patch time, it's a good idea to look over what spells and abilities are in your toolbox or your spell book and see how they're interacting. Look and see what changes are coming up in the patch notes. And then don't forget to check out sites like Icy Veins, Noxic, Wowhead for various different tips on how to play your class and spec a little bit better. A lot of times they have players who are working in the PTR and developing some techniques utilizing some of the new combinations of spells and abilities and figuring out ways to maximize your DPS. You might also check out some websites that are specific to your class, such as Altered Time for mages, and I know there are some out there for hunters as well that are still pretty active. I'm not terribly familiar with all the classes as far as which ones have, you know, very dedicated websites and whatnot, but you will find all of the classes under Icy Veins, Noxic, and Wowhead. And just, you know, really just practice a little bit. Try out putting some new spells on your bar. You know, hit that dummy up a little bit and keep getting those deeps.
Awesome. And Epistle.
What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress?
I just have to protest. I'm not actually wearing a dress. But anyways, today's Come At Me a Tanking Minute is brought to you by Killjaden. Killjaden, the boss that tells you to mitigate actively all the time. This boss hits like a truck, so it's just reminded me of an important thing tanks have to be thinking about. You've got your cooldowns, of course, emergency cooldowns. A boss is going to do damage, you use them. But this boss is continually doing so much ongoing damage that's putting a lot of pressure on our healers, and will in any kind of group that you're in, even LFR, if I can say it. So what you really need to be doing is being on top of that mitigation and using that thing called active mitigation. So if you're not entirely familiar with the concept, it's probably worth Googling and looking it up. But here's a short thing that you need to know. Depending on your tank spec, depending which kind you are, you're going to have something called active mitigation, which you want to keep up as much as you can in order to block ongoing damage. And there's ways to manage it and get really good at it. So, for example, Vengeance Demon Hunter has Demon Spikes, Guardian Druid has Iron Fur, Brewmaster has Iron Skin Brew, Protection Pally, which I am, of course, is using Shield of the Righteous. It's possible that you could be overdoing it. Shield of the Righteous, as a case in point, you actually have to space them out. You've got two chances to do it, or rather two buttons. You can push the button twice and have two going right after each other, but then you're not spacing them out properly. So that's that's one specific tip for a protection pally. But each of your own classes and spec have something that you have to get aware of in order to keep moderating the incoming damage from time to time, because it can take out quite a bit of incoming damage. You manage that, and the bosses that hit like a truck hit like a 4x4 instead. And that's been Come At Me a Tanking Minute.
A 4x4. Is that another vehicle? Is that a Canadian vehicle? Or are you talking like a 4x4 post?
No, I'm talking like a, isn't that a 4x4? Isn't that a truck?
Yeah.
Like a, one of those big trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, a big one, full load, lots of stuff, lots of damage. Would kill you if you're not wearing, plate gear.
All right, that was awesome. And now there's Tapachino.
Kind of keeping in line with JoBui's minutes, today I'd like to list some helpful websites that I use when I'm looking for healing tips and tricks. For general information, Icy Veins is a great website that lists all the classes and specifications in an easy-to-use format. They also have a tanking and healing guide. Wowhead is useful for quests to find out where NPCs are and where to find items and profession mats. I use Ask Mr. Robot and Noxic, which is sites that are useful for gear information and what is the best gear to wear from your bank and bags. All these sites also have general as well as detailed healing guides. As we get into the new patch and into the new raids and dungeons, I'll add more information with more class-specific healing sites. And that is today's Tap into the Healing Minute.
All right, it's WFN News, Warcraft Favor News. Command Center is up next at the Broken Shores with Forces of the Order and Heavily Augmented. So you get those extra augment runes. The weekly quest is Time Walking in Cataclysm. Now go get Deathwing.
Ooh.
WoW tokens, 153k. Should have bought them several weekends ago when they were cheaper.
I remember thinking that 40,000 was too much to spend on them. Ooh.
So you can look at it both ways. You can look at it as, I can go buy for $20 153,000 gold. Or you can go, I can spend 153,000 gold and get a month of Warcraft for free. Either way. Or you can go buy some cute little pet or pay for another subscription, because Blizzard lets you do all that with the Blizzard bucks. So again, I want to thank Formir for winning the Ugly Transmog contest. I want to thank Charm for all of our beautiful music, for our minutes, and for our websites. And yeah, I got nailed on another copyright on the last podcast. I got to stop using some of her songs that I haven't used in the past. Maybe I'm just using them too long. I don't know. But whatever. It's just YouTube. YouTube's changing, man, I tell you. So, and I want to thank all of our fans for listening. You guys truly, truly are the reason we do this year after year. We've got a year under our belt. Going into our second year now, I can't see that, things is going to change. Now, Tuesday, I think we also have patch coming out. 7.3, am I right on that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anybody know what changes? If anything really big changes?
There's a
Quite
lot.
few things, yeah.
That's a whole show, really.
Okay. Well,
43 new pets to get.
Of course there is. Well, so there's a preview of episode 52. We'll talk about 7.3. So, thanks everybody for coming. Panel, you're fantastic as always. Thanks you all for showing up. And we'll see you all next week.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
If you like this podcast, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. And please, leave comments or questions below. Maybe we'll answer them on the air next podcast. We are hosted on Podomatic.com. Our website is Lionspridetavern.podomatic.com. Our podcast also airs on iTunes for Apple users, Google Play for Androids, and YouTube. Just search World of Warcraft Lions Pride Tavern Podcast. See you next week, and thanks for listening.
I kissed an orc and I liked it. The taste of his Bulgur chapstick. I kissed an orc just to try it. I hope my allied friends don't mind it. It felt so wrong, it felt so right. Don't meet up in love tonight.
All right, I see Taps typing away, so I'll give her a second.
I think Jobui was like reading my mind when he did his.
I think he read your post.
But actually, I didn't even open it, actually.
That's kind of funny.
You stole hers? Oh.
Now she's down there drastically changing stuff.
With mind power. Seriously, I didn't even open the document. I just was like, I didn't have time to write because I didn't even think I was going to be here tonight. And we got back a little earlier than I thought. And
I was like at a complete blank, so I came up with something kind of on the fly as well in the same kind of category.
in front of the stage and was dancing around, and everybody's all like, "Oh, look at how cute!" I'm like, I know, I make the best kids, right?
Every girl that walked by was like, "Oh, he's so cute." I'm like, and my buddy's sitting there going, "Can I borrow him next weekend?"
All these women are always like, "Oh, your baby's so cute. Oh, look at how attentive a daddy you are, blah, blah."